Welcome to the Maritime Startup Ecosystem Interviews, a series we created to give even more exposure to startups from the Maritime Startup Ecosystem Network. Today I'm here with Pamela Miner of CoLoadX Corporation. CoLoadX is the online marketplace and platform for the 80 billion international container shipping industry. And so we have Pamela, Pamela here. Hello, Pamela. I always mess up with your name because you have this difficult name. You have Pamela.
Yes.
Welcome.
Well, there we go. Thank you.
Okay. Welcome. So where are you? You're under a rainbow. Fantastic.
Yes. Yes.
You know,
always.
The magic of Zoom.
Yes,
Something
exactly.
that you can't do in real life, you know. So it's great.
Exactly. Yes. It's my avatar.
Great.
Yes.
Yeah. So where are you based?
New York. So Coload X is based in New York City.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think we are all in lockdown now, looking forward to the day when we can jump out. Probably some people are already doing it, sort of getting more laxed on this. But it is what it is. Actually, this COVID situation allowed us to start this series of interviews because people were bound to be at home and so bound to respond to our requests. So here we are. So CoLoadX. Can you tell us something about CoLoadX, your role in the company, what the company does?
Sure. Yeah, so CoLoadX is an online marketplace for ocean container shipping. So think Travelocity, but strictly for ocean container freight, strictly B2B. We put ourselves right in between two intermediaries that we think are very important to the whole shipping life cycle, which is freight forwarders and NVOCCs. So we very much believe that it's the guts of the supply chain around ocean container shipping that is in desperate need of an easier way to do things. So that's what we do. I am the co-founder. There's a couple of us that started this company. We both have years and years of experience in the industry, and I also happen to be a Silicon Valley junkie for many years. I spent all of my career basically in Silicon Valley, and I'm an engineer and have a whole tech background. So I'm totally living the dream right now of bringing technology to this, my beloved logistics industry.
Yeah, that's so interesting. That's so interesting. I didn't know of this background of yours in Silicon Valley. Actually, it's fantastic. I think that having been able to live there in the days of the first bubble. I don't say that. I mean, you were still a baby when the first bubble was there.
Right. Exactly.
We were babies.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not talking about the tulip bubble in 1600.
Right. Yes, good to clarify that. Yes. Although I do have patents and freight derivatives, but okay, but still,
No, but it really, having been in Silicon Valley, must have been in all the time when it really went from a place where you just built like silicon and transistors to the center of the world for everything. It's really amazing. And now bringing this also to maritime, it's funny because maritime lives in kind of a bubble itself, that is sort of bubble that lives 20 years later, that is sort of a time machine. But it's good because now we know how an industry reacts when change happens, digital driven change happens. And we're probably one of the last industries to address it. And so we have dozens of other industries that did it already, and we can learn from them in a way. What do you think about this?
I think about this a lot, and this is where it's so profound for me and my career, my past, and what brought me to here now. I really think that there's a whole technology adoption curve. Which of course, being from Silicon Valley, we know there's the early adopters, there's the early majority. So there's this whole way that technology becomes infused in a society. And the thing that has really is happening now, particularly in the last 5 years, is that it's not so much that our industry wasn't ready to change. I think our industry always has been. It's so like it's so. I mean, things have to happen, and they have to happen quickly. There's always a need for that. It's just that we didn't have the technology foundation in place. And I've done a couple of other startups where we tried to actually build this foundation, and it requires lots of servers. It requires lots of software, middleware, translation software, gateways and pipes and all sorts of software. And what's happened is we got the cloud, and we have this tremendous digital infrastructure now that allows a person with a smartphone to be anywhere in the world and basically conduct a whole business, because you've got web apps and all the other tools that now can be used with this. Now that you've got these pipes that you can go up and down in the cloud and use and send data. Right. And now that that's available to us, something like Coload X can actually happen. And I have customers in Pakistan. I have customers in New Zealand. I have customers in Australia that, well, they don't use their smartphones, but it's something that they could never have done 10 years ago.
Yeah. It's great. It's really, we are lucky that we have all the infrastructure in place now. We just have to leverage it to create value. And so go ahead.
Well, yeah, so leverage is the key, and so and also we're so fortunate because we're happening at a time when there's going to be more of a viral effect. So it's going to be less about one company is going to figure out all the answers and execute a completely digitized end-to-end solution. No, it's going to be companies like Coload X and everybody that's on your market map, that's coming together, playing different digital roles, and then all coming together. And this is where blockchain eventually will start to play out. So we all have the same foundation, like the internet that they're working on. We're transmitting data back and forth on. So yeah, and we're going to do this in not a one size fits all. It's going to be this collective, it's like a crowdsourced solution. Everybody's working together. We've all got our own spot to play. We're going to compete and we're going to sell to each other, and yet we're all going to like play a role in getting this massive change to happen.
Yeah. That's super interesting. And in fact, I didn't plan to do this, but what you mentioned just leads me to tell you and whoever is listening about some new stuff that we are going to propose on our platform website that now is turning into a platform for startups. And it's not only for startups exposure, but also for startups to connect with each other. So we're going to create a restricted access section where only startups of the network can access, and actually they can post and find opportunities to collaborate in the way that you were mentioning right now, in a way that is collaborative and competitive depending on the situation, but where really we have different pieces of a puzzle that we want to assemble for the benefit of our customers. Right. And so this is something that I'm really keen on doing and getting the most value for the startups to be able really to talk to each other and create value together. In these interviews, in the last like month or so that I've been doing these interviews, this theme has come out repeatedly. We have a bit that is interesting. We missed this other bit. Let's find a way to match these for the benefit of our customers and of course for the benefit of our business. So
brilliant. There's actually a name for that. It's called collaborative capitalism.
Yeah.
It's starting to be written about in the Harvard Business Reviews and so forth. It Forbes, and it's actually a thing. Yep.
Yeah. Well, so in fact, you always learn that you're not inventing anything. Just finding out something that someone else has invented earlier on, but that's fine. It means that you're almost as clever as that. No, but I think I'm joking. The point is, let's make it happen. Let's not just talk about it as a theory, but let's make it happen.
Yes.
And this is really driving my activity and startup world forward. This part, other parts related to connecting again startups with investors, another separate section for this, and another separate section to connect startups and maritime companies. Challenges from the maritime companies. I need this. Who can help me out, solve it? And off you go. You have one or more startups that come together and solve it. So definitely, I like it. Collaborative capitalism. I've heard of it, but I never put myself in those shoes.
There's a great book that describes this. It's called The Starfish and the Spider. And it talks about how change is happening in a very different way than it's happened in the history of humans and businesses.
That's very. So I have to read about this. I'm super interested in all this stuff and how change happens and how changes in time. The way change happens changes in time. And actually now we are experiencing this accelerating pace of change that is never going to slow down again. As I thought this was a much older sentence, but as Justin Trudeau said just 2 years ago, he said, change has never been so fast. How was that? Change has never been so fast. It will be never so slow again. And I thought this sentence was like 10 years old. Instead, it appears to be just 2 years old from Justin Trudeau. But that's exactly where we stand. And actually, I say we might say we've always been on a exponential curve. But when you're at the very beginning of an exponential curve, it looks flat because your life is much longer than the time it takes for it to really change. Now we are in a place where the curve changes, not in a lifetime, changes in a year or in months.
Absolutely.
And it is accelerating. So we really, as an industry, it's not only we have to take advantage of technology, there's no other way. There's no other way, because you if you don't do it, you'll immediately be not just, I'm just 1 year behind, but 1 year behind is like for today being 1 century behind. So it's great. It's impossible. So at very, very interesting times. Now we totally faded away from the original theme. I want to go back to the theme, but I also want to talk about something that you mentioned before. So it will come out. Now you mentioned clients, Coload X. So Coload X is like a tried and tested startup in a way. You have had already your pilots and you have had already your first customers. So how are you doing now? You're all over the world. How it's going?
So we're pretty deep into it, actually. So nice track record, generating some revenues. We are as well, as they say in the startup world, always be raising. So we as well it's a little challenging time right now with the virus situation, but we're also continuing to look for funding. We're focused right now on US to anywhere in the world, and then as well China and some other countries in Asia inbound. And we're focused right now on ocean container shipping. We provide the ability to get a price and book either port to port or door to port. And so it's actually kind of exciting. What we do is we make that simple act of, wonder how much it's going to cost today to book something from Boston to Tima, Ghana. And I have my customers tell me this all the time. What used to be pick up the phone, make a few phone calls, maybe send a couple emails, and they always tell me it's 2 weeks. They wait a couple weeks before they hear back, and they go back and forth and they negotiate. And that is okay. I mean, that's the way we've done things for many years. the whole idea, and this is why, I mean, it's the Amazon effect, the whole idea that you can go one place and with a few clicks of your finger, you can see what's available and then you can book it. It just cuts up that whole inefficient back and forth time. It's different. It starts to make freight look more like a commodity. So, and I know that's a bad word in some aspects of our industry, and I don't mean to kind of diminish the value of freight, but our whole thinking is that a container is a container, and the more efficiently you can find a way to get that container moving, then the more of those containers you can move. And if you can create efficiencies that take away that 2-week time, I mean, literally it's 2 weeks down to a day or maybe even a couple of minutes, then you can spend your time doing the other really value-added stuff, I think, which is making sure that the container gets through customs all right, the documentation's right, that there's the consignee is ready, you know, all those things that really are the value added. It's not the acquisition of freight. That should be just as simple as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. We have to get away from the tasks that can be automated and add value where we really add value as humans.
Exactly.
Yes. So and this should be obvious, but unfortunately, well, it's not been obvious for long. And what you say about the commodity, actually say that when I talk to someone who is not from the industry, I tell them, look, maritime shipping is a very difficult industry, an industry with very small margins, and this is because we are selling the cheapest commodity ever. Yes. That is empty space. So it's not even grain that is cheapish; it's empty space.
Yes.
No. So and of course, a commodity like that, it might be more or less commoditized depending on how specialized cargo, or I mean, for specialized cargo, it's not exactly the same. But the idea is really offering space that, like a contained space that moves from A to B, and then you put inside whatever you want. Mm-hmm. This is the most simple of the commodities, and of course the most probably tradable, and in competition is really on what, on price, on time, on being in time, on time, and on safety and security for the cargo. But there are added values that are beyond the space, the freight component. So and this is interesting for people who who are not familiar with it. They go, oh, I never look at it this way, you know. So
that's so true, because 90% of the world's goods move by ocean. 90%. Now, a lot of that is bulk, so oil and other raw materials.
Okay.
60% of the world's goods move by container. And so if you think about it, like everything around you like came on an ocean vessel somehow, some way. So it's really like, it's just all around us.
Yeah.
And it's really being kicked in the butt now by e-commerce. So, and it's, as you said, ocean shipping is the most cost-effective way to move goods. There's the time factor, that's a whole nother discussion, but it's the most cost-efficient way to move goods. And we've got e-commerce that is just driving the heck out of getting stuff from wherever it's made somewhere else in the world to the final consumer, that final doorstep. And so there's this added pressure to, like, okay, I got to get 45 containers out of China that are filled with toys or electronics, and I got to get them as quickly and efficiently as possible, so that when somebody orders on Amazon on their smartphone, orders something that can actually be delivered that same day. Now, you know, it's not happening now with the coronavirus, but you know, the whole idea is that Amazon, you know, you can order something, it can arrive that same day. And in order for that to happen, right now, 20 or 30 weeks earlier, somebody thought, oh, I'll put that thing on an ocean container. So the more we can, as e-commerce is driving more and more and more and more and more and more of how we consume things, the more efficient we can make that first mile, the easier we all can compete and stay involved in getting goods to the last mile.
Yeah. So well, it's exciting to be in this very unexciting sector.
It is very exciting. It is awesome to be in this industry now.
Yeah,
awesome.
Absolutely. And
we are at a tipping point. We're at a tipping point.
Yeah.
It's terribly exciting to be at the tipping point.
That one. It's like you're on the wave and you're just surfing on it, and maybe it's gonna like, well, whatever, fall on you, but it's fun as well.
We're gonna ride it.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, I have another question that I usually ask about how the company is doing, and you mentioned something earlier that you are already in always fundraising in a way as any startup, because you have to think, okay, how do I keep this going? But not only keep this going, how do I pay the normal running? How do I pay the growth? And the growth needs to be financed. So what are your plans right now? Are you fundraising right now or in the next future? Remember, this is a public forum, so it's just information that you can share.
Yeah. So we are definitely in the middle of fundraising for sure. We're a bit on a pause right now, so we're actually focused on business. So what's been happening, and I think this is going to really give us a trigger to really get into new fundraising efforts, probably in the next 6 months, like a renewed effort, because business is picking up tremendously. I didn't expect it, and I do have a sense that out of crisis often comes prosperity. So there's a couple of things that are happening. First, that it is well known, and this is a Silicon Valley perspective, that if you can survive an economic crisis, the dot-com bust, the Great Recession, tech companies that survive those are the ones that really have the formula right. They've got it right. So there's a sense that for us, I mean, we certainly feel like, and we can see it, that we've got the right product market fit. We've got the right solution, we're on the right track in terms of like at least where this is going to begin to make a big difference in how you ship something. And then business has picked up. and it's this whole principle of marketplaces, which again, if you look at the dynamic of a supply chain and how things get done in supply chain, some pieces of it are done via a marketplace. And marketplaces, when times are tough, are the best thing around. This is why Amazon's like hiring thousands and thousands of people, because when you go to a marketplace, you know you're going to get what you need. And so that's what we're seeing. So we're getting old customers, new customers coming back because they know that wherever they're trying to get to, that we're going to be able to find the capacity for them.
Yeah. I think that the marketplace idea and the ecosystem idea is developing strong. I've had this idea from the very beginning for Startup Wharf, and I see now. I'm very happy to see that it's happening all around, all over. I've seen marketplaces and in communities evolved in the past in different sectors. So this is also a way of learning from the past. But it is very interesting, and it brings us back to what we said in the beginning, the collaborative economy. Now you said it was another word. How was that? Never mind.
Collaborative capitalism. Whew.
Exactly, not collaborative economy, because we want to make money, not just to run.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yes. Yeah, it's perfect. So, well, I tell you also of something else. Now we are totally like disrupted mode.
Perfect.
That's how it has to be. And actually, you have to be sensitive to whatever change, whatever things comes to you at any moment, and make the best of it. Like using COVID times to run interviews, or seeing clients that have stronger needs in these times, and just leverage it. And if you're well positioned to, then it's really a positive thing. So what I wanted to tell you before you tell me your initiative. So in the new website, you've seen certainly that we have a directory of all the startups. Then we have what I mentioned before, the 3 different sections. But we have also an academy with small courses, mini courses. We are preparing also like something bigger for maritime companies, like people in shipping, maritime logistics, who want to learn about startups. I think this is an important missing point, because now everybody hear about startups, hear about this innovation thing, these guys are disrupting or whatever, but they really, it is honestly difficult to engage with a startup if you have no clue of what a startup is. It is difficult. And so we want to help the industry to understand what startups are and to sort of handhold or guide them to engaging with startups in a way that is valuable for both. It can't be just a normal procurement exercise when a startup is in its early stages. This will hurt both sides. It will harm and hurt the company that went through a procurement process with someone who can't cope, and so wasted time. And for the startup itself, it will be a tragedy of starting a process that is well beyond them and much bigger than them, and that they cannot cope with. Whereas if both sides knew of each other's needs, they could find a way to work together. That is, I would say, contemporary way of working together. That is not just sell me this, I buy it, boom, that's it. But let's build it together. We are at the forefront of innovation, of change, of things that are yet to happen. Let's build them together rather than get them as they come, because it might be too late for us as a company, as an incumbent company. So this is another. So it's the interview made of pitches. It's pitch all the time. So now you tell me something about educating people, the industry. What are you doing? You told me something in the beginning before we started.
Well, let's see. This is, I feel like either our minds are melded together or somehow we were communicating with each other, because I've had such similar thoughts about this. So let's see, I'm going to maybe describe the answer in a slightly different way, less around education, but more around, I had talked to so many logistics tech startups, everything from a tracking solution to creating a blockchain solution for moving documentation. All of them, the great ideas, they have the tech piece down, they've got prototypes, they've got customers. All of them are talking to the same customers. All of them are talking to the same investors. And they're all beginning with, here's what the industry is, here's why it's important, and here's what you can do about it, and here's our role in it. And this was even my experience when we were with an accelerator, and all the investors we talked to, I mean, it's not that they don't want to, but it's logistics is like this like weird place. It's like a place that nobody ever goes to unless you're like in the industry, and like, how hard could it be? Like, really? And so these poor startups have these great ideas, but they it's so sub-optimized, because they each have to explain to each investor and each customer why what they're doing will help, the value proposition, how it would work. It's not gonna, it's gonna be the deployment of it. I mean, so all right, so how do you address that? So one piece of it, I think, is from an investor standpoint, let's look at the whole ecosystem as an investor, or maybe it's a group of investors that get together, and investors who have enough money to make a difference, and they look collectively across the industry and figure out, okay, you need something around the price discovery, you need something around documentation, you need something around payment, you need something around the whole booking aspect, that somebody from an investment standpoint, let's look collectively across the ecosystem, and let's make enough investments in these companies, because we realize that they all got to come together to make it happen. The other piece of it is where I think you're spot on, which is the education piece. And so for these logistics tech startups, they know, typically what I find is they know the industry well. Well, most of them know the industry well and are able to bring a tech solution. And for them to understand the basics of, you know, like an accelerator, like startup school, like how do you pitch? How do you build a business model? How do you deploy? How do you growth hack? How do you sell to customers? I mean, that whole education piece is really necessary, I think, for startups. And I think they're thirsty for it too. It's just that what they need is something that's tailored to the industry. So you're spot on. Something that helps them understand how to build a business in our industry.
Right. Yeah. And I think that on these lines, you started to talk about this, and you're going to launch a podcast, right?
Oh yeah. So well, then there's
I wanted to get there.
It's because I've been in this industry long enough that it's just time to get my voice out there. So yeah, so I started a podcast, and it's the theme of it is that it's all about, hey, shipping is all around us, and it's about to be, well, like you're saying, it's about to just be, we're hitting the tipping point with tech. And I think it's so important that the word gets out there, and my podcast is called Ship Happens.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Ship Happens.
And my first episode, which is out there now, is called Everybody Ships.
Yeah, which is perfect. And really, everybody ships 90%. You know, so we go back to that. Sorry. Go ahead.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So that's what I want to tell. I just want to. So much of it is maybe in a small way I can get to enough investors and enough consumers, or somebody who's on the using side of logistics, that to have them understand how important it is to foster and nurture these startups and this whole industry. I mean, technology is important for startup. It's just as important for the major players in the industry, the FedEx and DHL and Maersk, and it's just as important for them. And so yeah, so in some small way, just warming up the industry to bring it on.
Yeah, absolutely. It is like really getting the industry finally in this 21st century of hyper technology. Well, we're just 20 years late. It's not a big deal. Go tell my son, he's 15.
Well, thank you coronavirus, because that is exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
We're actually,
we're
now going to actually really hit the 21st century.
Yeah, yep. We woke up to the 21st century finally. But it's good. Actually, it's much better now. As you were saying in the beginning, it's much better now than 20 years ago. 20 years ago, technology was out there already. Amazon started longer than 20 years ago, and Amazon became what it is approximately 20 years ago. Not as big and as rich, but really turned out into what it will become. But it was too early for an industry like ours to change because the tools were not there yet. As you said, APIs, web apps, and all the stuff that today makes things so easy that then you ask yourself, wait a minute, why 2 years ago we couldn't do this? You know, it's so easy. Or 20 years ago, even worse. So now it's really the right time, the right moment. And yes, we are at the forefront of it. So really love it. So, it was supposed to be like 15 minutes conversation. We did twice as much, but it's great because we spoke like half time about Coload X and the other half about the industry, the future. Well, no, we didn't even say the future because when you talk about the present, you're already talking about a very far future.
Yeah, well
in
said.
a way.
Oh, very well said.
Yeah. So, well, Peter, Pamela, thank you very much for this fantastic like chat in the green under the rainbow.
A little bit of sun coming in too, so I don't know what that's about. But
yeah. I mean, this fake cubicle. I can tell you also my secret. This is just behind this partition. It's my son's bed. So I mean, my son's
perfect
bedroom. So he doesn't like it, but it's perfect. It's perfect. And so thank you, Corona, also for this.
So glad to hear that.
Well, we are making fun. Actually, it's really horrible what happened with Corona and what is still happening. And we have to be very, very sort of sensitive about. But the silver lining was this, and it really brought a change forward that otherwise it would have taken another, say, 5-10 years or whatever. So yeah.
Well, logistics plays a really key role in this whole situation as well too. So we're an industry that takes what we do very seriously. So we are doing our part. Yeah.
Now, in fact, what's the name? Social workers. I think that everybody in logistics should be considered a social worker. Most of them are. Some are not, unfortunately, yet, like seafarers, which is crazy. But in principle, I mean, our industry is really the backbone of the global, not only the global economy, because even in times like now, where the economy is sort of stalled almost, you still need to eat. You still need to like buy some basic stuff, and logistics, shipping and logistics is still there serving the world, probably even much more important than, say, money or whatever, television. Well, now television is very important because you don't know what to do if you don't think to start a new business, for example. That is always a great idea. But yeah, so long live to shipping and logistics, and it's really a renaissance that we are very, very proud, I guess, to be supporting. So thank you very much. I really love this kind of talks and chats and have fun, because you also need to have fun while you do your work by changing the world, which we are doing.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and thank you.
Congratulations for all what you're doing. Thank you. Cheers.
And thank you, Leonardo, for the chance to have this conversation. It's really a joy.